your Caesar. Cardiff City, ride with me for your Caesar. For your Caesar. Cardiff City, get litty for your Caesar. She want a diff boy. Swagger 1 point, yeah, diff boy. She want a diff boy. Swagger 1 point, yeah, diff boy. For your Caesar. Grab a little something for your Caesar. We the geezers. Swagger stone cold like freezers. She want a diff boy. She want stabs, not Fitzroy. She want a diff boy. She want stabs, not Fitzroy. She want a big man. Says she want a man from...
Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Welcome to the breakdown, live on a Sunday evening. So, tonight we are asking the question. It's divided Welsh football fans over social media and probably a bit in real life as well, right? Over the last few months for definite. Do Wales have a player problem or do they have a manager problem? Because, look, whilst frustration is definitely there around the two friendlies, Romania, Ghana, and it's understandable, I think the real issues run much deeper than those two games. For many supporters, the cracks first appeared in the World Cup playoffs, run into it maybe. Wales had that route to qualification. Wales had an opportunity, and against Bosnia, in a game which I think many felt was there to be won, the dream ended. And not because Wales were massively outclassed on that evening, not because the players weren't good enough, but because some supporters certainly felt that the in-game management, the substitutions, the tactical stubbornness ultimately cost Wales when it mattered most. Now, let's be clear. Craig Bellamy made an electric start to his Welsh management career. He brought energy, he brought standards, he brought intensity, and he brought belief. He reconnected the supporters with the national team and gave Welsh football a fresh feeling identity. But football moves quickly, and the honeymoon period doesn't last forever. Results matter, and the big moments matter. And rightly or wrongly, many supporters now feel that Craig Bellamy's biggest strength is his absolute belief in his own ideas has become his biggest weakness. Whether it's sticking with certain players, persisting with certain tactical approaches that aren't working, or is it the increasingly combative attitude or towards criticism from supporters, from media, there's that growing feeling that Bellamy's become a little too stubborn. And I think that's a problem. And then the kind of added feel of like, I've played football at the top level, you haven't mentality, that might work when you're winning. But when things aren't going well, it becomes a lot harder to sell that. And when you've just missed out on a World Cup, that's a problem. But this isn't just about piling everything on Craig Bellamy. Because yes, he's the manager and he ultimately is responsible. But there are voices around him. Where are they? Because where's the challenge from the coaching staff? Where's the accountability from the FAW? Elite football, top-level football, isn't supposed to be a one-man operation. Everybody has a job to do. Bellamy has to evolve. The coaches have to support. But more importantly, have to challenge him. The FAW have to hold standards. They have to hold him accountable. And the players, they have to perform, right? The good news is this. The story's not over. There's plenty to play for. The World Cup qualification, yes, it's gone. But the Nations League football and a new qualifying campaign are just around the corner. Wales still have a lot of talented young players coming through. Wales still have time to evolve. Wales still have time to learn from mistakes. The question is, will they? So tonight, we're going to discuss in detail whether Craig Bellamy's stubbornness is becoming a problem, whether the criticism is fair, who should be held accountable for the recent failures, and what Wales must do next if they're serious about getting back to major tournaments. Now, I want you guys get involved in the chat. Give me your opinions. Let me know what you think. Is it as simple as is all Craig Bellamy's fault? Is there more to it? And, you know, much like everything, there's a bit of context, there's a bit of nuance. Let's get into it. I don't just want shouty. I want to have a proper discussion about it, because on one hand, I do think that Craig Bellamy's making some mistakes, and that is rubbing fans up the wrong way. There's a stubbornness there for sure. But on the other hand, managers do have to be stubborn. On the other hand, this week, for instance, with the two friendlies, a lot of complaints about the squad, a lot of complaints about, could you have got like younger players in there, the Biancheris of the world and that age group? Well, they had a very important fixture. And I think that was probably the thinking behind it. However, the young players within the group which did get selected could have been played. And I think that is an issue, and that's something that we can discuss for definite. But I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what Welsh fans think, because when I look on social media, and look, social media is not always the best judgment of real life fans, because it's a turgid cesspool of views, but it does often give a reflection of where the general feeling is. And at the moment, the general feeling seems to be that Craig Bellamy's losing the fans. And that's disappointing on a number of levels, because one, I think he showed in the early part of his management with Wales, he can get us playing exciting football. He can get us playing football which is aggressive and on the front foot. He does like young players and players with pace. Like, that's exciting to watch. It's good. It's better than just sitting back and trying to, just hope for one special moment. But you have to evolve. You have to realize when something's not working, when someone's not working. And I think as an international manager, one of the most difficult decisions to make is moving on from a generation or from a certain player, certain players, because they're starting to age out, even though they might be still playing club level football at a high level. I think that is a difficult decision for a manager to make. But there comes a time when you've got to make that decision. Now, I believe those decisions are easier to make if you have a real good look at the young players playing in the first team. And I thought these two fixtures were a really good opportunity to literally play almost everyone that you haven't played. And this isn't a Cardiff and a Wales thing either. Like, yes, I would like to have seen Ronan Capaccio and Joel Colwell and Isaac Davis more. But I'd have also liked to see Congreve from Swansea more. I'd have also liked to see Kai Andrews more. I'd like to have seen a whole host of young players. I would have liked to have seen Kumas start both games and play. It's the end of the season. He's got a big break now. Let's see, because I think what I've seen of Lewis Kumas since we lost to Bosnia in the Northern Ireland game, it was the most frustrating thing in the world I've ever seen. Not because of anything Lewis Kumas did negatively. Lewis Kumas was really good. But what he did do is he did everything which Mark Harris is in the side for previously, and what Mark Harris came on against Bosnia to do, but he did it better, quicker, faster, younger, more technical ability or whatever. And that was frustrating to me, because we've just come off the back of a Bosnia game where we could have done that and we didn't. I watched Josh Sheenan, and look, Josh Sheenan to me is fairly limited in what he can do. But certain things that he does, he's very good at. The Bosnia game, the second Jordan James come off, to me, there's two decisions. Do you want to keep hold of the ball and try and just control the game that way? In that case, bring Josh Sheenan on. Or if you want to continue to push and be aggressive and energetic, then you bring Joel Colwell on. And again, it's not a Cardiff Swansea thing. I actually think Liam Cullen has done all right for Wales. I feel for him because he continually gets asked to play in midfield, and he's not a midfielder. He's getting asked to do a job that he's not equipped to do through no fault of his own. He's someone who wants to play off the striker, but he's been asked to play as like a high number 8. When you've got Joel Colwell on the bench who will do exactly the same job, is used to doing that job, is probably a little bit more comfortable having the ball in deeper areas, receiving the ball on the half turn and such. It's got to be round pegs and round holes. And I understand all the arguments about Joel Colwell's experience, which is why in that particular game against Bosnia, I would have brought on Josh Sheenan and tried to keep hold of the game. And I would have maybe tried to get another 15 minutes out of Daniel James and maybe that way. But anyway, I don't want to go back to the Bosnia game too much. My point is this, is Craig Bellamy, rightly to a certain extent, is stubborn. And I think all managers have to be stubborn. They have to believe in their own ideas. They have to believe that what their decision is going to work and that's the right way to go. But these decisions have kind of reoccurringly not worked. So let's try something different. And we're not. And I just think that's frustrating. And then these two games recently now against Ghana and against, my mind's gone blank, Romania. That was really frustrating to me because I just thought that was a real opportunity to have a look at everyone else. Like, I know what Connor Roberts can do. I know what everyone who normally plays can do. I understand maybe there was some frustration from the Welsh management and camp that the tickets didn't go very well for the Ghana game. In my opinion, people would have been far more excited about seeing a young, new, exciting squad full of players that they don't know much about and they haven't seen, that they want to see the next generation of Welsh footballer, than they were about seeing the same players they've seen time and time again, and some of which have not done that great up front, done that great recently. But I think it's a really interesting chat. I think I can see people's frustration with Craig Bellamy. I've been frustrated with him. I also think now certain people, not everybody, there is certain people who don't like him, have never liked him, and this is their opportunity to get their knives out and kind of stick it in his back, sort of thing. Like, I get that. That's the nature of football, is that there's always someone who doesn't like you for whatever reason, and they're just waiting for that opportunity for when things start to go belly up. I don't think it's too late for him to turn it around. But if he just keeps doing the same thing over and over again, I can only see it end in one way. And that would be really unfortunate and really quite sad, because I think there's so much potential there with him. I think he's got a really good coaching staff around him. And I think that whilst we don't have the incredibly gifted world-class stars of yesteryear, what we do have is a really good 11 and then a couple of good youngsters. And then in the younger age group, then we've probably got a few coming up, which maybe are not quite ready yet. But I think it would be nice if we could see a bit of them. And maybe because of the size of Wales is such a small country, perhaps we will end up having to push those players into the first team a little bit early. And I do get it. Like, they want to try and protect people and stuff like that. But I just think the frustration is there now. And this is the time now where Noel Mooney, where Craig Bellamy, where Dave Roberts, like all these different people who work in Wales in the setup and the FAW, they can't have their heads in the sand and pretend that everything is rosy and everyone's happy, because a large portion of Welsh fans are not happy. And I think if you just ignore it and keep doing your thing, the crowds are going to drop, the people are going to get frustrated, and you don't want that, especially when you've got ticket price raising coming very, very soon, and quite a substantial rise in ticket prices coming soon as well, which is a big issue. So let me know what you think. Let's get some questions off, and let's have a look in the comments. Evening all, Robert, Graham, other Robert. Reese, Paul, welcome everybody. Paul says, over both games, we created enough chances, but we aren't clinical enough. No doubt we have the talent. It's the difference with Bale and Ramsey. They were elite and they make a difference. I do believe that, yeah. Like Ramsey and Bale in particular were world-class footballers. World-class. Like top level footballers. Could almost have played for any club in the world. Almost. In Gareth Bale's case, he probably could have at his peak. But even Aaron Ramsey at his peak, most clubs would have taken him. So it's very unusual for a club Wales' size to have two players of that quality. But it wasn't just them. We also had Wayne Hennessy, who was unbelievable for Wales. We had Chris Gunter, and we had Neil Taylor, and all these different footballers. Like, they were top quality footballers, even if they weren't at the level of a Bale and a Ramsey. And look, I think we have some very good footballers now. We have a good team. We do lack that spark. Now, maybe you have, I don't know, a Congreve or a Harry Wilson. Maybe he's probably a bit older. He's probably as good as he's going to get, but you never know. I think he's improved drastically over the last 18 to 24 months, particularly in a Wales shirt. But even for Fulham, he's hit another gear. So maybe there's more to come from Harry. I think Nico Williams, Ampadu, etc., have the potential to go on and be elite footballers. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them kind of go and play for huge clubs and keep progressing, because you forget with them lot, they're still early 20s. They got plenty of time to keep improving. So I'm not too concerned about them. You've got a lot of youngsters coming through. And I'm sure at some point, someone in the chat will bring up Ruben Colwell and him not being in the squad. I am led to believe he had an injury, but who knows at this point? Even if he was there, he probably wouldn't have got on the pitch. But the confusing thing with Ruben for me is, initially the reason he wasn't playing was he wants runners. The manager wants runners. The manager wants people who are going to press, energetic. And then that doesn't fly, because we've just seen Ruben cover more ground than anyone for Cardiff City this year, leading the press, creating, scoring goals. If you're telling me that he can't get in a Wales squad and just come off, even if it's off the bench when you need a goal, that's rubbish. And to me, it stinks of some type of personal reason. However, that personal, and I should clarify that, a personal reason doesn't have to mean there's like some deep, dark secret or they've had this big fallout. He might not just fancy him as a player. Sometimes when you're coaching or when you're watching football or you're analysing football, sometimes a player just doesn't capture you. And other people will tell you, he's a wicked footballer, blah, blah, blah. But you just don't really, you think, he's decent, but you don't see it. And maybe it is just that. However, I think it's difficult to justify when you look at the season he's just had, when you look at the players who are getting in front of him. I think that is more difficult to justify with a straight face. But it's his job to pick the team. But it's my understanding it's also his coach's jobs to challenge him and to bring up other names and to talk to him about different things, different options, different opportunities. So that's got to be, it can't all just be heaped on Craig Bellamy. There's other people involved in that process. They need to be in those discussions. And that goes for all the players, even the players which, some people are saying shouldn't be in the squad, or some people are saying shouldn't be playing or whatever. Like, it's not all just on Craig Bellamy. Other people have got to do their job. Now, in my opinion, and I said this, I think, to Reese the other day, actually, off air, and I'm going to say it on air now. In my opinion, following the Bosnia game, the FAW, the leaders of the FAW, should have sat down with Craig Bellamy and reviewed the qualifying period, the playoffs, and asked him to explain himself. And I don't mean that in like a necessarily, it sounds really combative, doesn't it? But like, what I mean is, in any job, you have a review after a very important project, a very important moment, or just a yearly review, whatever it may be. That was a massive game for Wales, which we didn't achieve our target. So after that, there should have been a sit-down meeting between Craig Bellamy and his bosses, and they should have asked him to explain what he thought went wrong, what he thought went right, why it didn't work, why didn't we qualify, what went wrong in the game, what went wrong before the game. Is there anything we could do better next time in terms of preparation? Is there anything the FAW can do better in terms of facilities or whatever? Like, it should be an overall review. And it's my understanding that didn't happen. So any manager or any person in any job will have targets, whether they are written down in a contract or whether they are stated verbally or whether they're just generally assumed. People will have targets. Wales's target was to qualify, particularly when you saw the playoff draw. You had Bosnia, and then obviously would have gone on to play Italy. When we didn't achieve that target, the FAW should have wanted answers. It's about standards and it's about culture. And I'm not saying he should have been sacked or fired or anything like this. I'm not saying they should have had this big screaming match, but it's about professionalism and it's about holding people to account when they are doing a job, when they have targets and they don't reach them. And I feel like everybody is too scared to really question Craig Bellamy on certain things. He gets asked a question about whoever, Ruben Colwell or Liam Cullen or whoever, whatever, and he kind of just bats it off. But there's not really many follow-up questions from the media. Like some journalists are better than others, and some are really good at kind of pushing it a little bit. But more so, like the FAW behind closed doors should be holding whoever the manager is to account. Otherwise, you can never get better. And you're going to make the same mistakes forever and a day. And surely, if like the head of the FAW in Noel Mooney, if he's got so much on his plate as like an overall thing in terms of women's football, men's football, grassroots football, he's got so much going on, then it should be up to the technical director or whoever's directly above Craig Bellamy to do that and have that conversation. But that conversation should be happening, and it should have happened. And the reason why I assume it hasn't happened, well, there's a few reasons, but the main reason I see that it probably hasn't happened is nothing's changed. Nothing's evolved. Nothing's been tried. No thinking outside the box, which is disappointing when you consider some of the incredible coaches that Craig Bellamy's already worked with. It's all become a bit stale, and I'm really concerned about that because I want Craig Bellamy to succeed. I want Wales to succeed. And I feel like at the moment we are kind of heading on this downward slope where the fans are getting frustrated, the results are not coming, the performances are not coming, and it's all kind of going down. And we need to turn that around, and we need to turn it around quickly. And yeah, maybe in some ways, the fans, maybe we need to get behind the manager more. But that is, there's many aspects to that. Let's go back to the comments. Reese says, both. Some players can't even start for their clubs. The lack of quality in numbers to pick from. But Bellas is also being stubborn with his squad selections. Yeah, and I tend to agree with that, mate. I think there's probably a bit of both, isn't there? Like, he is being stubborn, and I think there's some issues that side of it. But then equally, I don't think we've got bags and bags of talent to choose from in terms of top-level talent. Graham says, sticking with Brennan Johnson has been constantly poor. Connor Roberts not played this season. And likes of Joel Colwell wasting time packing. Yeah, I think it's difficult to argue with any of those points, mate, really. For me, Brennan Johnson's a really interesting one. Because no Wales manager has really been able to get like the top level performances out of him. But it's clear that the ability is there. It's clear that he cares and he wants to do it. He just can't seem to get it going in a Wales shirt consistently. And if we can get him going, I'm of the belief that he has the ability to be one of those, like, not maybe world-class level, but like a top-level footballer. He has the ability to do that, and we haven't got loads of them. So he can be something special for Wales, but he's got to get it consistently. Jeff De La Cruz says, these two friendlies should have been used to blood the young players Why Connor Roberts? Why Kiefer Moore in these games? Makes no sense, mate, does it? Makes no sense at all. Particularly, like Graham just said, when Connor Roberts hasn't played all season, it's bizarre. And then you add to that, like Jeff says there, 7 first-team players missing from Romania's squad as well. Evening, Kukak, how are you? Paul says, biggest problem is the amount of players to choose from. We're only a small nation, but we have some talent to come through who will hopefully help, but that's the long term. It is, mate, and I think that's why you've got to utilize what you have. Harry Wilson's a huge miss, as Graham says there. Like, Harry Wilson's a massive miss. He is, because he is the absolute metronome of everything which Wales do. And when you look at it, like Jordan James, Ethan Ampadu, and Harry Wilson, that's a good midfield. It's balanced. It's got the right profiles. It's energetic, good on the ball, and it's got the technical ability to play and the creativity to play. And then if you can bring some of the younger lads off the bench, I think it can work. However, I think you've got to play round pegs in round holes. I don't want to see what is predominantly a striker being forced into midfield where he's not comfortable. He's giving everything he's got because he's a proud Welshman. But he hasn't got the skill set to do it because he's not a midfielder. When you've got 2, 3, 4 midfielders sat on the bench, all of whom are young, energetic, just as proud to play for Wales, have the technical ability to play just the same, and also are used to playing in that role. That doesn't wash for me. That is a problem. Graham again says here, biggest question is, why are we playing friendlies? We're both out of the World Cup. The Nations League was supposed to do away with them. I think these sort of group of friendlies were generally for teams to prepare for the World Cup. It was like the last games before the World Cup. So really, there was no reason for us to play them, was there? Because if you think, if we were playing in the World Cup on Thursday, they would have taken place wherever they would have taken place in America, and we would have played those friendlies there. However, obviously, was there a need for them? Now, if we'd have played a load of young players, I would have seen a big benefit to play in these 2 games. The squad that we used, particularly against Romania, but like the squad that we generally used, what was the point? I mean, one thing we did learn is that Jason Kumas is streets ahead of Mark Harris. But I mean, with the greatest of respect to Mark Harris, I could have told you that before the game. I think we all knew that anyway. Lewis Kumas, I think I said Jason just now. Lewis Kumas has been waiting patiently for his opportunity with Wales, and he probably deserved to get it sooner than he got it because he's playing regular football. Jonathan says, I personally feel Bellamy has lost the players and the fans with his decision-making. They don't look like they're playing for him, similar to when Cardiff under Ilmar Risa started to play well, but they soon went off the boil. Now, that is an interesting one. I hadn't really thought about whether he'd lost the players because they were so vehemently behind him in those early games. But it does feel like a while since we had one of those performances. I know, but then Macedonia wasn't that long ago, was it? Like, record-breaking performance against a very, very good side. Like, Macedonia are no mugs. A lot of people had tipped them to come beat us, and we beat them 7-1. It wasn't that long ago. And that was probably the last really good performance. So, I take that on board, mate. That's an interesting point. Reese says, ironically, this is one of the reasons me and Rob are doing grassroots chats. We're relying on English clubs to find our next Bale Ramsey because grassroots is uncared for by the FAW. Interesting. Paul says, you can't ignore how bad grassroots are. This area shows it could and should be better. Yeah, mate, you 100% can. Grassroots is real low at the moment, and I think it's a big problem. And ultimately, that's the next generation, isn't it? Like, obviously, you've got all the lads in the academies and stuff now, which are going to come through, but you also 10, 15 years or 10 years, a lot of the kids who are playing grassroots football now are going to be that generation, and they haven't got the care and the stuff. It's going to be difficult, isn't it? Wales, mate, in answer to the Owl God. Jonathan says, Craig Bellamy is adamant Ruben should be a 6 is one excuse I saw, but he don't play there, and Bellamy is determined that Ruben isn't a 10. Bellamy's fixated on being right and is too stubborn to change. Here's the thing, though, right? Jonathan, thank you for the comment, mate. I kind of agree. Like, there is this feeling that he wants to play him deeper. But he's never given him an opportunity deeper, one. Number two, I don't think anyone's saying he should start in the number 10 ahead of Harry Wilson. I'm certainly not. Harry Wilson has been sensational for Wales. I think what most people, including myself, are saying is that bringing Ruben on late in games against tired opposition is a no-brainer. He can carry the ball, he can shoot, he can work hard. He's got this massive frame, which makes him very difficult to get the ball off. He can help you keep the ball. He can help you put the opposition under pressure. And against tired players, you can get him in little pockets of space. It's a weird one. He's not the only player, by the way. Like, there was players over the Romania game, which I was very surprised didn't get on or didn't get more time. Graham says, what I don't get is we know what the likes of Dan James, etc., can do. So why didn't he give others a chance and have a look? Yeah, that's my point. I think it was a real missed opportunity. And when you think about how much we're struggling for centre forward, could we have given Biancheri a go against Romania or against Ghana? And I understand and I think the under-19s had a really big fixture. Didn't want to tire him out, etc. Didn't want him to get an injury. That's fair enough. But at some point, we've got to give some of these players a go just to see. Because you know what it's like. We've seen it. It's a tale as old as time. You give a youngster a go and they play without fear and they do something special. And then all of a sudden they do it again. And before you know it, they're a regular first team starter because you gave them that initial opportunity and they took it. Jonathan said, the same as Bellamy's adamant that Harris and Cullen will eventually work. So he keeps picking them. Apart from this squad, they'll always be there and involved ahead of far better players. I agree with that, mate. I also believe that, if you listen to Swansea fans, they're very surprised that Liam Cullen's in the squad, let alone the team, because he hasn't been playing well. I don't think he played a lot for Swansea this year. I don't know. I don't pay that much attention to what he does at club level, if I'm honest. But all I see is I see a lot of Swansea fans saying he hasn't been very good. And ultimately, when you're a small nation, I think you have to pick on form because you haven't got like this huge pool of players to pick from. So I think you've got to go with the players who are in form. And sometimes you've got to take a risk on, a striker who's on a bit of a goal scoring spree in Scotland or in League One or whatever. And yes, you'd rather they were playing in the Premier League or a higher level, but they're on a goal scoring streak. You need goals. You haven't really got anyone else. Chuck them in, see what happens. Jeff says, Noel Mooney is widely vilified in Irish football. He was given a temporary job with the FAI and they let him go after 6 months. So I think, by and large, speaking in generalities, I think Noel Mooney's done a pretty good job in his time with the FAW. However, I think I don't know this for a fact, so I shouldn't sort of say it as that such. It feels to me like there is a fear from within the FAW to almost upset Craig Bellamy. But you need to there needs to be a working relationship. There has to be a back and forth. And at the moment, I don't see any changes. So either that means one of three things really is either someone's said, pointed out some of the problems and the manager's ignored it, whether that's the coaches or his bosses or whatever, or they've discussed it and they think this is the best option. Feels unlikely, but all right. Or they haven't discussed it because no one wants to upset the manager. And if that is the case, and it is a big if that is the case, that is a working relationship which is not going to last the long term. Because you have to be able to have back and forth. You have to be able to hold people accountable when they don't hit their targets. And look, I know from speaking to many people that Craig Bellamy was absolutely devastated when Wales didn't qualify against Bosnia. And I think it's important to remember that. Like he didn't not want to win. Like he wanted Wales to qualify more than anything, I'm sure. Like he's a proud Welshman. He's so proud to be the Welsh manager. It's not that. And look, it's difficult. It is very, very difficult. I understand it to a certain extent. But I think if we keep going the way we're going, we're going to kind of hit a bit of a dip that's going to be difficult to get out of. And I don't want him to lose the fans because it just becomes horrible and toxic and yuck. But like, you only have to look around social media before, during, and after a game, and there isn't many positive comments flying about, which is such a shame. Because one of my favorite things about Wales, like home and away, has been is the fans and the togetherness and the backing of the team, no matter what. Like I love that. I love those Welsh games. Like the Together Stronger was not just a catchy hashtag, like it was a genuine thing. And I just think and feel like we are in real danger of losing that to a certain extent. People are still gonna, not saying like we're gonna go back like to the sort of doldrum and the dark ages, but I'm just saying like there's a negative vibe at the moment, and I would like to see more efforts being made everywhere to stop that. And hopefully discussions like this evening can help to come up with solutions, rectify it, whatever, like talk about it, point out things that are going well, things are going bad, whatever it may be. Like, it's not all doom and gloom. There's some real quality footballers in this team. Like Nico Williams is one of my favorite footballers. I think he's so good. I love the way he plays football. I love the aggression. I love the quality. You've got Dylan Lawler coming through in centre back. Like his ceiling is like so high. He's going to be playing at the top level soon enough. Ethan Ampadu and Jordan James is another, like that pairing is, I think, are just so good. And they're all of those players I just mentioned, they're all so young. Like they're all early 20s, if that. And then you've got like the experience of a Ben Davis and people like this. Like Joe Roden is, I think the improvement on Joe Roden over the last sort of 4 or 5 years has been incredible. I think he's a top defender now. So we have players. We have a really good starting 11. And then we have a handful of really good young players that I think the manager needs to learn to trust. And because the young players, they might fail sometimes. And it might take time for them to get, but they've got to earn the trust of the manager by taking their opportunity. But they can't earn the trust of the manager if they do not get minutes. If they don't get the chance to play, they can't earn his trust. And if we play the same players who've not been very good, we're not going to get a different result or a different response because we're just doing the same thing. Jeff says, talking to small nations, Bosnia's population is slightly less than Wales. Interesting. Jonathan says, apparently, if we don't play during the international break, we get a fine. Bellamy talked about this in his video. Wales get fined 1 million for not playing. You're interested, right? Interesting thing is thing then, right? So last week in that video before the Ghana game, and Craig Bellamy comes out and they release a video on the FAW YouTube. Great. And they say, the ticket sales have not been great. Please come down if you can and support the boys and blah, 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 blah. How about if ticket sales are not going that well, do a press conference to promote the football match that you want people to come to? If you don't want people to think that it's a throwaway friendly, which no one cares about, maybe don't just chuck out like a 10-minute video talking about it. Actually do a proper press conference. That blew my mind. Like the idiocy of that. Whoever's decision that was is bizarre. Bizarre. There we go. Alan says, I don't like to see Bellamy as a manager when he picks players for the squad who haven't proved their quality, e.g. Brennan Johnson. That's interesting. See, I think there's a real player in Brennan Johnson. I really, truly, I believe it with all my heart that he's one of the most talented players we have. But I also believe that he just hasn't been able to show it in a Wales shirt very often. We've seen glimpses, odd game here and there. Just can't find the consistency. And I don't know what the answer is. Play him through the middle, play him wide, play him left, play him right. I don't know what the answer is. You know, maybe the answer is to take him out of the firing line and take him out. And then integrate him back in off the bench and see if that helps. I don't know. So Graham says, who would you replace Bellamy with? I wouldn't replace him, mate. I still think he's the right man for the job. But I think he has to really look in great detail at the different elements of what he can do to improve and the rest of it. The people around him, i.e. his coaching staff, need to do their bit, and they also need to challenge him as well. Not just don't be. I know, and I'm not saying they are. I have no idea if they are or not. But don't be yes men. Like challenge his opinions, challenge his thoughts. That's the best way to get a productive working environment, particularly in a dressing room like that, or a training, a coaching staff. And the people above him have got to hold him accountable. I think it's vital for that to work. I don't think it's the end for him. I wouldn't replace him. But he needs to get the fans on side. He got the fans on side at the start by being aggressive and playing aggressive, exciting, fast football. And the biggest problem in those first few games was that we faded in the second half because of the energy and the aggression and the intensity that we were playing at. And even then, people were getting frustrated because we'd fade in the second half and we wouldn't use the young players like Kumas and Colwell and whoever. Like, we weren't using those players to keep that intensity up. And people get frustrated by it. Of course they do, because people care. And what I don't want to happen, you know, I'm a proud Welshman. What I don't want to happen is go back to the dark, dark days where people don't care about Wales and they don't care about Wales football, because that's not a place you want to go back to. So let's do the right things and work together. All right, let's have a look at a few more comments then before we finish up. Reese says, also takes us on to another point. We aren't producing enough Welsh coaches. The coaching badges are producing the likes of Arteta company, etc. But we should be offering cheaper entry to Welsh people. Yeah, that's a really interesting one. Every man and their dog does their coaching badges through the Welsh FA. But we don't seem to be progressing. Like, you don't see many Welsh coaches coming through. You are right, mate. Jonathan says, I'd give Aaron Ramsey a go. He's doing all his coaching badges. Didn't get the results with us, but only had 3 games. And we had us playing better football during those 3 games. That's not a worse shout, mate, I've got to say. I think Aaron will make a really good manager one day. And I actually am of the belief, much like with Craig and what Mark Hughes did, because Wales is a small nation, I think going in as a national team manager as your first job is actually a really good idea. Who else did it? Giggs did it as well, of course. Harry Thomas, welcome, mate, says, do you think we'll qualify for Euro 28? I think we have the players that could. I worry at the moment because I worry how we're using the players we've got. Let's have a look. Graham says, got to bring back Oshan Roberts with whoever the next manager is, even if that man is Oshan. Not sure, mate, about that. I don't know what Oshan's doing. Last time I heard, he was coaching in Italy or something. Harry says, are you a fan of Julie Hoyler? I am a fan of Julie Hoyler. I was quite surprised that he didn't get in the Canada squad for one last hurrah, but they've got some real good players, mate, like Alfonso Davis and a couple of others. So I was a little bit surprised, but yeah. Junior Hoyler was a quality player, though, in his time. He's a bit old now, mate, I suppose, but still doing a job, isn't he? Reese Lasky says, so basically he said, if Bellamy left, I'd rather go for an actual manager that's had a career in the game already. I feel Rambo may be more of a similar vision, but not the tools to make it happen. All depends on the coaching staff, doesn't it, when you're a young manager. Reese Lasky says, Cooper would be my choice. Oof. Reese, and then Jonathan straight away, he said, Cooper football is dreadful. Interesting. And then he's more experienced than all of them. Jonathan says, I don't think Brennan Johnson has the desire to play for Wales. He don't look like he puts half as much effort in as he does at his club level. Interesting, mate. Interesting thoughts. Jonathan Mordecai says Ryan Giggs has the best points per game out of recent managers, and it was his first job. Gary Speed turned Wales into what it is today. It was his first job. You don't need experience to be good. You need a chance to do it. 100%, mate. I agree with that. And you obviously have to have the ability to do it as well. And I think those people that you just mentioned, they all did. I think Craig Bellamy has the ability to do it. I really do. Like, I know a lot of people have kind of getting frustrated with him, and some have given up on him, and some were just waiting for a chance to have a go at him. Like, I get all that. I saw enough and heard enough from him, particularly in the first sort of 8 to 10 games that he was in charge, or whatever it was. I can't remember how many. But I saw enough in that to know that he can do a good job for Wales. I just feel like he's lost his way a little bit. And maybe I'm not even sure it's stubbornness. I almost feel like it's a need to be right about certain things or certain players or whatever it may be. And like Graham says, his record isn't that bad. 8 wins, 5 draws, 5 losses in 18 matches. It's not bad at all, like, really. Giggs' record was 12 wins, 5 draws, 11 losses. And when you put it like that, like, it's one of them, isn't it? Dennis Burkamp says, are you British or are you from Wales? I'm from Wales, mate. Born and bred Welsh fan, my friend. Hope you're well. Jonathan says, Bellamy hasn't won a friendly in 5 attempts. No friendlies are meaningless, but you still get ranking points or lose them in that case. It shows a lack of motivational abilities. Well, I think that's why he lost his rag at half time against Northern Ireland and kicked the bucket. He didn't kick the bucket. He kicked off, and I think he I don't know what it is. It's difficult to explain. I don't think it's a lack of motivation. I think he's like got tunnel vision on what he's doing and things he should do. And someone needs to like just give him some outside of the box ideas. And that, because I really believe he's got the skill set, the coaching ability, the tactical knowledge, the attention to detail. I think he's got it all. He's just got to get out of this little rut that he's in. And I do think he can. Reese Lasky said, I'd be up for going for someone who's not Welsh. Just get the best manager available. Not now, but when Bellas goes, I'd like to employ an actual manager. It's interesting, mate. That's an interesting one. Like some people, I was watching something the other day. I can't remember who it was now. Some journalist or an ex-player or something was saying about they believe that in international football, the manager should have to qualify to play basically for the team that he's managing, which is interesting. Ryan says, can we clone BBM for Wales and we'll be in fine hands? Jeff says, another thing that worried me about Craig Bellamy, when he was appointed, he came over as a bit of a used car salesman to me, saying all the right things, but no after sales. No, I disagree with that, mate. Look, I welcome all opinions, absolutely, but I do disagree. I disagree with that. Having, obviously been lucky enough to sit down and have a chat with him and do the event with him and stuff like that, but also to follow up to that. One of the things which was so refreshing about him was he talked a good game in the event and privately. And then when he took over the games, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. And for me, that was so refreshing because I've heard so many managers and so many footballers talk bollocks, basically, and say all the things they know you want to hear. And then when it comes to implementing them, it's just like 5 men behind the ball and we're trying to hit him on the break. Like, gutless. But he didn't do that. He said he was going to be brave and he said he was going to go for it, and he did. I just feel like the last, like post-Macedonia almost, that's where we've become a little bit timid. And, some of it, by the way, is about the quality of the players that we have. We just don't have the players. Or we certainly don't have the experienced players. Maybe we have the young players, but we'll never know because they never get enough chances to play. And I'm not saying chuck all the youngsters into the next Nations League game. I'm saying 2 pointless friendlies, which no one cared about, including the players, the manager, and everything else. That's when you get the players playing, have a look at players. Play Brennan Johnson as a centre forward. If you've got to play Brennan Johnson, play him centre forward. I don't know. Play him somewhere else. Play him somewhere different. Do something different. But for me, I understand the thought process of not wanting some of the under-19s to get injured. Although I have my doubts that if they'd been called up anyway, even if they didn't have that big game, I have my doubts about that. But let's say that's the reason. But there was plenty of other players he could have given opportunity to and didn't really give much time to over the 2 games. Plenty of players, young players, or even just players who we haven't seen that much of in a Wales shirt. Loads of players could have had a real good go. We know what Kiefer Moore can do. We know what Brennan Johnson can do. We know what Daniel James can do. We know what these players can do. We know Connor Roberts can do. It's a lot. Have a look at other players. Give them a real opportunity. You think some of those younger lads, if they'd had the opportunity to start those 2 Wales games in a row, you're going to learn way more about them than you are about Connor Roberts or about Daniel James, because you know it all about him already. Give those guys a break. Bizarre. Jonathan says, I think Craig Bellamy's too stubborn to work with. He wants to repeat the same mistakes and hoping it comes good by picking favourites, not on form. He originally said he would pick on form. Yeah, I think that's one thing you could probably kind of go back on a little. Like you could say he's gone back on a little bit, is the picking on form. Because there's no way you can justify playing or saying that Liam Cullen goes ahead of some of the others on form. They're just factually incorrect in it. Same with Connor Roberts, in fairness, although he didn't play the big games. Ryan says, when you lose to Romania and then you back England to win the World Cup, talk about self-sabotage. Oh, wow. Graham says, I'm waiting for the media backlash when England go out having a German manager. Yeah. Jeff says, I hear what you're saying, Si, but again, the after-sales service is not there. The car's broken down. He's got the parts available, but he isn't fixing it. But it's not all on him, mate. And that's what I was saying earlier, right? I don't disagree with you there. Like, I do think it's failing at the moment. And the Bosnia game I count as a failure because I think that was a very winnable game in the moment. But it's not just down to one man to fix the car. He's got bosses. He's got a technical director or whatever his role is ahead of him. He's got the head of the FAW ahead of him. And with him, he's got his coaching staff. Like, there's people around him who should be helping to fix it. And I'm sure they're all working hard behind the scenes to do it. But, like, something's got to give at the moment. Like, it's not going well. It's not enjoyable at the moment either. Paul says, non-negotiables. He set out clear expectations for the squad, focusing on hard work, high respect for the shirt, players maintaining an open-minded willingness to learn. Bella's first interview. Indeed, he did. Reese Lasky says, so many smaller nations look overseas to help them progress by getting experienced managers. When we just look at Welsh, we massively limit the pool to pick from. I agree with to a certain degree. I think, I'm not sure where I stand with it, mate. I really not. Paul says, so the non-negotiables he spoke about in the first interview as Wales manager with me, did anyone see hard work in the last few Wales meetups in games? Well, I think in the Bosnia game, I don't think it was a hard work in the Bosnia game. Like, I think it was a general thing. Harry Thomas says, do you reply to the chat? I do, mate, yeah. I'm getting through them. There's lots and lots of comments. Like, but I did answer one of yours about Junior Hoylett, mate, I think. If you're talking about the comments on the videos afterwards, I do, but sometimes it takes me a few days to get to them because, lots of channels, lots of stuff. I Redknapp also said Tuchel was a spy. Look, I'm gutted, and I'll finish on this, right? I'm gutted. I'm devastated. I'm covering the World Cup next week for my channels. I'm doing some stuff for some other places, talking about the World Cup. Like, and I'm really looking forward to doing all that. I'm blessed. What a treat. Very, very lucky. But I'm gutted that Wales is not there. I'm so disappointed. I really and I look at that Italy team which Bosnia played, and I think we'd have just had too much pace for them. But we just blew it against Bosnia, and we're still making those same mistakes. And the thing which hurt against Bosnia was the mistakes we made in game against Bosnia. We made them in the previous games. I think it was Kazakhstan away. We got absolutely torn apart in the midfield. We were just very lucky that our goalkeeper had a blinder and they couldn't finish their dinner on the day because they could have won 3, 4, 5 against us that day, against Kazakhstan, because we had ridiculous midfield. So I'll finish with that. Like, I asked you the question: is the problem the quality of manager, the quality of players? Sorry, like, do we just not have the quality of players? Is the problem a Craig Bellamy problem? Is the problem the lack of accountability from the FAW and holding him accountable for missed targets, etc.? Are his coaches doing enough to challenge his ideas? And ultimately, are they all working together well enough to take Wales forward? I do not want to go back to the dark days. But you cannot put your head in the sand and say it's all going hunky-dory at the moment, because it's simply not. This has been a breakdown. I've been Si. Thank you so much for everyone who's got involved. There's loads of people watching. I appreciate it massively. Thank you for all the comments. I'm absolutely exhausted. It's been a long week. Back tomorrow. We've got special guests on the channels and stuff this week. I'm doing World Cup stuff on my channel, on Cardiff City World. We've got special guests. We've got a video on Ruben Colwell tomorrow. We've got another recruitment report extra later Tuesday, I think it is, on another player. We had a recruitment report extra this morning looking at under 21s Premier League midfielders. Like, it's all go. It's all talk. And if there is anything which you want me to specifically talk about, let me know. If there's anything Wales related you want me to address or speak to, like, let me know. Particularly if you're a member, message direct, because I'll always take ideas and suggestions and questions from the members. We will have a members show tomorrow night as well. Don't forget that. As always, keep the faith, comedy ambirth, and I'll see you in the next one. Nice one.
Rascal Beats.
For your Caesar. Cardiff City, ride with me for your Caesar.